Hi, my name is Ryan Wolf and I'm the president of Ability Ministry. I'm glad that you've tuned in again for another one of our short training videos. This month we're going to be talking about how to help your volunteers avoid burnout. We know that in the world of ministry, having enough volunteers will likely always be a battle. What we don't want you to do is to compound the problem that you have with having enough volunteers by losing the good volunteers that you already have to burnout. So today what I'd like to do as we start off is to talk about DSPs, Direct Support Professionals. I'll refer to them as DSPs in the following slides because I think there's a lot of really great parallels between DSPs, direct support professionals that work with individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities, and with volunteers in the church. Sometimes they're the same person. So let's look at some of the traits of DSPs that work with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Typically, they are females between the ages of 18 and 39. The average salary of someone working in this position is about $24,000 compared to $38,000 doing the same type of job with individuals that don't have intellectual and developmental disabilities. So you can see there's a huge difference, even within a similar field, just working with a different population. In these DSPs, direct support professionals, typically have the least amount of training in their profession and in their field of work that they are in, and yet they still have the most face-to-face time and work with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And oftentimes those are stressful situations. A lot of times DSPs are understaffed when it comes to their ratio of individuals that they are working with and the coworkers that they're working alongside. In nonprofit situations, there's even fewer staff members to individuals that they're working with typically, and they often have to work long hours. So you can see why there's probably a lot of burnout with DSPs. In fact, it's estimated that within organizations supporting individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, the turnover rate is anywhere between 30 and 70% for direct support professionals on a yearly basis. Can you imagine as an employer having to replace at least half of your workers every single year? It's unbelievable. And here's the other thing that you might find staggering is that almost all of the turnover is due to DSPs quitting rather than being fired. Why is that? They're burned out. So let's look at some of the reasons why DSPs get burned out in the field that they work in. We already said that they're not paid very well. They don't have a lot of training, they lack the support that they need, and they work in high stress situations. I think these four things are really important for us to narrow in on as we think about the volunteers that volunteer in our ministry, in our disability ministries. A lot of times they may be the same people, right? The direct support professionals that do this for a living may also be volunteering for us on the weekends. And also, I think as you consider these four things, there's a lot of parallels. There's low pay. For volunteers, there's no pay, right? Oftentimes our volunteers come in with a great heart for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but maybe not much training, if any at all. Oftentimes, depending on how your situation is set up in your ministry, there may not be a lot of support. And they may find themselves in stressful situations. So we don't want our volunteers to burn out at the same rates that direct support professionals burn out in that we know of. So what I want to do today is to give you 9 tips to help your volunteers avoid burnout, because you don't want to lose the great people that you have. It's hard enough to find good volunteers, so don't lose the ones that you've got. So let me give you 9 tips real quick on how you can help them avoid burnout. The first is to pray for them. Obviously, you're praying for the volunteers that you have, and you're praying for the volunteers that you need. But let's always make sure that we continue to cover the great volunteers that we've got in prayer, that pray that God gives them everything that they need as they volunteer, not only when they're volunteering for us, but pray that God gives them everything that they need in their lives. Also, we want to give volunteers clear expectations. They should know exactly what they are responsible for, the time frames that they're responsible for. And a great way to do this is by creating job descriptions. Put it in writing, what the expectations are for your volunteers, so they know where their duties end and the next person's begin. Okay. The third thing is to get to know them. No volunteer likes to be referred to as, "Hey, you." Get to know your volunteers. That means knowing them all by name. And beyond just knowing their names, know something about them. Know about their family situation. Know about the things that they enjoy. Know about what they do outside of volunteering, so you can have a great and meaningful conversation with them. The fourth thing that you can do as a ministry leader to help your volunteers avoid burnout is by you being prepared. I know this may sound strange, but consider it for a moment. No volunteer likes to work under a ministry leader who is frazzled and unprepared. No volunteer likes to feel like they're doing more than their ministry leader is. So make sure that you're always prepared each and every Sunday as you work with your volunteers. Fifth, try to build community. It's never good if the only time the volunteers see each other is for 1 hour on Sunday morning. You want to build community outside of Sunday mornings, because one of the greatest things that can stop from burnout and from volunteers quitting is by building relationships. Build relationships and offer opportunities for your volunteers to build relationships together. Whether it's at a meeting or an event or a gathering or a small group, support group, having them have opportunities for them to be together outside of just Sunday mornings is important. Build community for your volunteers. Also, help them find a mentor. As you think about all of your volunteers, very few of them have the exact amount of experience. Make sure you're pairing your volunteers up with someone that has more experience than them. Make sure that your more experienced volunteers are paired up with someone that has less experience than them. One of the facts of the matter is you can't mentor everyone, especially as your ministry continues to grow. So lean in on some of those key volunteers that you have that have lots of experience that can impart wisdom upon those that don't have a lot of experience. So make sure those mentoring relationships are going both ways. Make sure people are paired up well. Seventh, offer training. This is one thing that often falls at the wayside. Or you try to tell yourself, well, I'll do on-the-job training because I'm too busy to offer training outside of ministry hours. There are a lot of good free training resources out there. Point your volunteers in the direction of some of that free training. Offer training yourself. Make sure that you're having meetings with your volunteers. If you feel inadequate to offer the training, lean on someone who can offer training, whether it's a leader in your own community or whether it's reaching out to us at Ability Ministry, where we can offer training to your volunteers. We can do this online. Or we can do this on site, depending on your situation. So make sure that you're offering routine training for your volunteers. Eighth, give appreciation. There are so many ways that you can show appreciation to your volunteers. I just want to highlight a few of them, but I also want to encourage you to just Google volunteer appreciation ideas. You'll come up with more than you could ever do. There's never a shortage of ideas on how you can appreciate your volunteers. But here are just a few that I have used in my ministry career that I've found have been very beneficial. And the first is just words of affirmation. This is a volunteer appreciation idea that costs you nothing. You should make it your goal as a ministry leader to have a personal touch with all of your volunteers every Sunday morning, even if it's just a hello. And remember, you're referring to them by name and thanking them for what they do. Walking through each of your classrooms and ministry environments, just saying thank you to all your volunteers goes a long way. Another thing that costs you nothing and is a great idea is to shoot some videos of volunteers that are doing a great job. If you can do this in conjunction with your church at large and show some of these video highlights, to your congregation. It can also be a great recruiting tool. But you can also show these online and on social media as you highlight and celebrate volunteers that are doing a great job. Social media spotlights are another great idea to do as a church congregation. So if you can do some of these things, it'd be a great way, again, to highlight some of the great volunteers that you have. And if you don't use social media, another great way to do this is to have volunteer spotlights in your program at your church if you have a printed program. Another great thing to do is to offer treats, whether it be candy or mints or whatever you want to share with your volunteers, and print off little messages. Again, this is something that you can find online. You don't have to be a super creative person to do this. Just Google it, and you can find different things that you can print up and attach to a candy bar or something that you can pass out to all your volunteers. Maybe do this on a monthly basis. On an occasional basis as well, offer coffee and donuts. Again, this is an opportunity to build community and have people rub elbows and build relationships by saying, hey, come up 15 minutes early. I'm going to provide breakfast for you. So offer coffee and donuts before the ministry gathering to give people an opportunity to get together. Next, occasionally give out gift cards. Doesn't have to be a big gift card. It can be, a $5 gift card to Starbucks or to any of the favorite places that your volunteers like to go to. But occasionally surprise somebody with a gift card. Everyone loves getting gift cards. Another thing that doesn't necessarily cost you anything other than your time is a personal visit. We expect volunteers to give of their time above and beyond what they do for their jobs and beyond what the family time that they have. What if you took out of your time and went and visited some of your key volunteers or your volunteers that you have in your ministry, whether it be taking them out for a lunch or just dropping in to say hello and thank them, giving them a card or something that would just show your appreciation to them. Take of your time and make a personal visit. Another thing that's a great idea to do is to have a yearly volunteer appreciation event as a church where all the volunteers can come together. If not a whole church event and just be your disability ministry, that's another great thing to do. It can be a dinner. It can be going out as a team to do something collectively that might be fun. There's a lot of, again, different great ideas that you can Google as far as volunteer appreciation events. There are no shortage of ideas out there, and you don't have to be creative to come up with some great events and ways to appreciate your volunteers. The final way that you can show your volunteers appreciation, help them avoid burnout, and be more effective is something that you may have not considered before. It's by offering rest to your volunteers. Your volunteers give so much and they're so busy. One of the best things that you can do to help them stay fresh is offer them times where they don't have to volunteer. Whether this is a month on, month off, or whether it's taking the summers off, or whether it's taking one Sunday off a month, you can figure out what rhythm works best. But I highly encourage you giving your volunteers moments of rest. Because the last thing we want to do is just work them into the ground to the point where they feel like the only time that they can get to rest is if they quit. So these are some great ways that you can help your volunteers that you have avoid burnout, because you want to keep the volunteers that you have. And I hope this has been helpful to spur on some ideas, to show some appreciation and help your volunteers avoid burnout. Thanks for tuning in to another one of our training videos. Make sure to check back every month for a new training video, and check out abilityministry.com for all kinds of free resources. Thanks.